live.
All right.
Hey.
Yeah. Hey.
Hi,
Hey.
I am Heidi. And next to me, this is Dain. And this is Happy Little Miniatures. It's
Hi.
our debut episode. What the heck is Happy Little Miniatures?
Yeah. What is it?
What is it?
It's good that you asked that question.
Yeah. Wow. That's a good question. Well, it's kind of organic. We're going to be kind of making it as we go along.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But
Yes.
it's kind of this idea I had because I got Zombicide here. And so because I got Zombicide, I have a whole bunch of miniatures to paint. And I was like, oh, what do I do? And so I got on the horn and I called my favorite art professor here, art teacher.
Oh, wow. Okay. Thank you.
And I said, Dain, I have all these questions about how to start and where to go from there. And you know what? I'm not the only one, I bet, who has these questions when they get a game. How about we do a stream?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, why not?
Yeah. And because, I love to live stream everything. And so that's why we're here, and that's what we're doing. And so today we're just kind of doing an intro of opening the box and seeing what's inside and picking a theme.
Move these.
And yeah, you can move that.
Okay.
And kind of talking about different paints and color and stuff like that. Just starting stuff and prep.
Yeah. Mostly all that kind of stuff. The prep. The overwhelming sensation that you get when you have a big box of miniatures that are not painted and you have a bunch of paints and you don't know what to do with any of that stuff.
Exactly. Kind of like how I was. There I am.
Exactly.
All right. So
it's an empathy exercise is what it is.
Yes.
And everybody's experiencing this along with you.
Empathize with me, please.
Yes.
Please.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. And feel free to comment. We do have our chat up and hopefully we're going to see you and we will respond as soon as we see it.
Absolutely.
So we are on both Twitch and YouTube. So here we have Zombicide Green Horde. We also have some expansions. This is just the base game. And wow.
So many miniatures, right?
So many miniatures. Yeah. And okay, so I did take out everything but the miniatures.
Okay.
Go see our unboxing if you want to see the full unboxing.
Okay.
It's pretty cool.
With the rules and everything?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's got it all.
Okay.
But so this is just the minis. But I did leave in some pictures because, it always comes with pictures of what your heroes and stuff should look like.
Right.
But look at these. These are pretty advanced, Dana.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know if I can get my heroes to look like that.
Intimidating color schemes.
Those are pretty intimidating. Yeah. Woo!
And then
I mean, these miniatures, they got some detail to them.
There's stats there.
Yeah. I mean, look at the detail on these
one of the
things.
hero guys. So you see that they're color coded. So that way you don't actually have to paint them. Which is a nice thing that's happening with a lot of games. Even Games Workshop has been doing that, which is...
Oh, yeah. That's true. I mean, I guess
yeah.
I don't have to paint it, but then my Zombicide doesn't look cool.
Well, yeah, you want it to be... Right.
Yeah.
You want to bring out that sculpt, right?
Exactly. I want to at least, do a wash or something, I mean, I want to do something. So, what do we got? So, the brown ones, I think, are heroes?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so these we might actually want to spend some time on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure, they'll be your characters.
These are going to be like our characters.
So those might be a couple of more podcasts down the line. We're going to probably focus on like the
actual hordes right now.
The meat shield units, right? The ones that are there just to block out
the stuff we're going to shoot at.
Yep.
Shoot at?
Yep.
Okay.
The cannon
fodder.
fodder.
Check. Right? It's got, speaking of cannon fodder, check this out.
Does it actually move?
That's what I'm wondering. I don't want to break it.
I saw something move on there.
There's like a little cannonball or something. It's a whole catapult. So I'm just recently...
That looks kind of funny.
Not that I want to make this a Game of Thrones podcast or video cast, but I did just recently start watching Game of Thrones. I'm just now in season 4. I'm not caught up.
Not halfway there.
And I'm getting there. Yeah. But I'm noticing, because I have not played this game as of yet, but I'm noticing this is a lot like Game of Thrones.
Okay. How so, Heidi?
Well, it's got catapults and And these could be like windwalkers in a way, or white walkers. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, they're a shambling. Oh, he's definitely this fellow is definitely a shambling former human.
Well, okay, so I saw the episode where the baby got touched and got turned into the little White Walker.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And he looked like a vampire White Walker.
Sure.
And this guy kind of looks vampiric.
Oh yeah. Well, he's got the bat ears.
Yeah. Right? So he could be like the vampire White Walker. So
everybody see that okay? Yeah,
so there's a part of me that kind of wants to do almost a Game of Thronesy, because I'm watching the Game of Thrones, so there's I'm kind of but we don't have to go like that. But
but that brings up color schemes.
Yes.
So yeah.
So yeah, I'm kind of thinking color schemes now.
Yeah. So
right?
You've got this.
Plus, I have that expansion with the dragon.
This green here. So that kind of leads us into you don't necessarily have to even paint these.
So do you have to prime these?
But these you would want to prime, I would say.
Okay.
But traditionally, primer was used for the metal miniatures. And that's because metal, it doesn't really like paint that much, at least in the first few layers. So what a primer is something that just helps the actual paint stick to the metal better.
I think that gives us all of our
all the
choices.
First row?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that gives us all the choices.
Well, these might all be the hero guys, because they do look a little more decked out. So this guy definitely looks like he's got a little bit more hit points.
Oh, yeah. Sure. Yeah.
So I saw there was some in there.
We might still need that up there, don't we?
Yeah, the second row might be.
Might need to move our close-up.
More of the units that are expendable units. I think these are more of the front line. Linebackers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Linebackers.
Like
and
these are like the sergeants kind of guys.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I get it. I get it.
Kind of like a caster, I think.
Yeah. Oh,
definitely.
Speaking of,
some kind of caster.
I just got a butt buzz.
Okay, we got a message.
Well, no, it actually means that we are actually on, and I wanted to make sure we were.
Oh yeah, we're on.
And,
yeah, it's on.
And if you too can get that ding or that butt buzz, if you subscribe to our channel.
Yes.
And
that's
so
right.
you just hit that little bell, or you hit that little heart.
The thingy, if you're wearing the what is it, Apple Watch?
Oh yeah.
It does a little poke at you.
Yeah. It'll do a little poke at you.
Yeah.
And go, hey, Heidi's on. Go watch her show. Or at the end of this, there'll be a little Fameeple. And I normally have my Fameeples here. And you can click her too and subscribe. So I just wanted to remind you of that before we got too in depth there. All right, go ahead.
Oh yeah,
little commercial there.
Well, yeah. So primer, yeah. So I mean,
so you don't have to prime these
with plastic. Sometimes you can get away with not actually priming a miniature when they're plastic.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah, and I know that
I didn't know that.
That sounds completely contrary to what we've been told many years for many years. But well,
primer people don't sue me.
Oh yeah, no. But think of it this way: plastic miniatures, plastic paint. Right.
Oh, so plastic should attach to plastic.
And that depends on what brand we're talking.
Because polymers, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. It's all polymer, and polymers could not necessarily attract.
They could not necessarily. In this case, they do not.
They could repel.
With Reaper miniatures, they do repel when the water is added.
Uh-huh.
So anybody that sees these type of minis at their store and you get them, you don't add any water to your paint for the first. I guess probably the first full layer, until it's completely covered with paint.
Okay,
you just put it paint directly.
So unless or you for sure prime them.
Yeah, you could. Okay. But with these Reaper minis, if you prime them with a spray primer, that can ruin them.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah, it can. I don't know if it always does, but it definitely can. There have been people who have told me. Yeah. Well, a lot of this is information that I'm not necessarily the authority. I'm definitely not the authority. Let's just get that clear. So, always double check your sources,
right?
Yeah,
but I think he's pretty darn
trust
good.
But verify.
He knows. Yeah, that's true. Always trust but verify.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. But, there are certain little tricks to this. But with Reaper miniatures, they've actually straight up said, don't use water when you paint them.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. For the first layer.
Once
you've done that, you can do as many washes as you want.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because then you have a protective layer.
Yeah, because this is a hydrophobic plastics. So that's
Ooh, hydrophobic. That's got to be a buzzword.
Yes.
So we are drinking our Crush Craft cider today.
Oh, okay. Is this?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know we were. Oh, okay.
So Crush Craft cider is our official drink, our unofficial sponsor. We are in talks.
Let's make it official sponsor one of these days.
Yeah, Jackson, let's talk. Yeah. So we're drinking their subtlety.
Okay.
Still looking for that cherry, that sour cherry, which is their new seasonal.
Okay.
And you can find that at like 43 bars here in town.
Fantastic.
Isn't that great?
Yeah. It is.
Yeah. So hydrophobic.
Yes, hydrophobic.
That's definitely a buzzword.
Yeah. So I mean that's what acrylic paint is. It's the vehicle that actually carries it. You can use it as the thing that thins the paint and makes it thinner. Okay. And technically a solvent.
Oh, okay.
Like as like if you use turpentine for oil paint, right?
Right.
You can use the water for the acrylic paint.
Oh, okay.
And so that lets you do washes and all that other stuff, which we'll get into further on. But I'm just gonna
don't worry, we're gonna get into all that, just not today.
Yeah, the natures of this
Each week
paint.
we're gonna get into a different technique.
Exactly. So this is the basics.
We want to make sure that we get into it correctly,
fully.
All right, keep going.
Oh yeah, so the water is the vehicle for acrylic paint, and the binder that actually binds the pigment, which is usually almost like a dust or a powder. It binds it to make it paint itself is actually what the plastic part of it is. The acrylic part of it.
So that's like the polymer
emulsion.
Okay.
So it's an emulsion of all of those things.
And so each paint has a different binder.
Yes.
And so it depends on the binder on.
Yeah. So in the case of oil paint, the binder would be the oil.
Okay, that makes sense.
The pigment is the common denominator in all of those. And so that's why some of these paints, it's like it can get confusing because like I've already told you a lot of things that it's like this is a lot of stuff. It can be very confusing. But
which is why we decided just to dedicate a show just to this.
Exactly. Yeah, because what you'll notice is the reason that one of the ways you can tell what's actually happening with the physical properties of paint is when you open up a paint for the first time and you notice it's got like, why does it look like salad dressing?
Right?
Because it's an emulsion. That's why.
Okay.
Just like a salad dressing.
Okay, so that's why you need to mix it.
Mix it up as good as you can. Give it a good shake.
And he has a handy dandy little paint shaker here.
Special shaker, right?
Just for those little paints. And we tested to see just how loud it is. It's a little too loud to probably put on the string. Yeah, turn on. And
that was the thing that holds it in paint in place. Okay. Didn't even rehearse that.
Yeah. I'm just waiting for a troll to come on and ask if that's some kind of adult
toy.
No,
well, that's another that's another podcast.
Exactly.
Right. It's just zombies.
Yeah, just zombies today.
Yeah, it shakes up the paint really good. It's actually, I highly recommend it. It's a bit of an investment. They can run about $40-$50 on the upper end.
That's really not bad though, if you think about it. If you're doing a lot of painting.
Yes, exactly.
Like if you see
like
over here, we
this,
have a lot of zombies.
This is like a tenth of what I have at home. So
yeah.
So, yes.
So as you can tell, I brought out a few paints.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So yeah, that's a good segue.
Yes.
To talk about the different kinds of paint that you'll see, right?
It is, isn't it?
So should we start with like probably the cheapest paint you can get?
Yeah.
I think that's probably
which this cost me 50 cents.
There we go. I don't know if you get much cheaper than that.
I don't think you can.
Right.
Good old fashioned. Let's see if I can get it on there.
Apple barrel,
bright red.
Apple barrel.
We probably all have a little bit of apple barrel somewhere in our house because we did some kind of craft, and so we thought
painted a birdhouse.
Yeah, exactly. So hey, I have some acrylic paint.
Yep.
I can paint my miniature, right?
Yeah. Yes, you can. you can use this paint. Yes, this is a paint that you can use, but.
Good butt.
Remember that list
of
things I told you?
Butt.
Yeah. Where's the emoji?
Right. I need to add.
Get a peach emoji in there.
Okay, we're gonna have to definitely get that for our next show.
We'll do it in post production.
Yeah.
Yes. We're gonna have a team that'll be doing.
We're working on that.
Yeah. Exactly. More sponsors.
Yeah.
So maybe Apple Barrel will sponsor us. I mean, that would be. No, you can use the. I got to tell you, this is something you can use. But I had a conversation with Heidi about what will happen.
So, what is its binder?
Its binder is the same thing as all of the other acrylic paints I mentioned. But generally speaking, it has way more binder than it has pigment.
Oh.
Okay. So what that's going to do is...
Okay. So there's there's a balance.
A balance, exactly. A balance. It's a fine balance.
Okay. Absolutely. All right.
Yeah. So when you have a lot more of the binder than you have of the pigment, or the proportions are off, and you
I think I want more pigment because then it would take more paint.
Yes. Right. That's ideal for if you're doing like the washes or glazes or those kind of things. You generally use like a really highly pigmented paint that's thinned down.
Yeah.
And what it'll do is it goes a long way. As a matter of fact, we can transition and talk about inks. Inks are basically
just pure pigment.
Almost pure pigment. Yeah. They generally do have a little bit of a binder in them of some sort, but
because it's just all liquid.
It's pretty much just pure pigment. So if you really want to talk about like extending the color out as far as you can, if you just invested in inks and then you mixed your own paint, basically own acrylic paint by adding the acrylic to it.
Oh, interesting.
That's one way you could do it. But again, you got to be careful because if you've got too much of this binder, too much of the acrylic or the polymer emulsion.
What kind of ink would I buy? Would I just buy ink, or is there a special ink?
Well, this happens to be a brand that you came out with, and this one actually already does have acrylic in it.
Okay.
The De La Rowney FW series.
All right.
So again, you want to shake these up really good.
Yeah, because it was like a totally different color. In fact, grab one of those that you haven't shook.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, I don't know if this... Oh, wait, this one looks good. Look how...
Okay.
Let's see how... You can see that white on the top? So that's probably going to be what your polymer emulsion is, actually, in this ink. And a lot of inks don't have this, but as you'll notice, it says acrylic ink rather than just ink.
Yeah,
right?
So if it's not acrylic ink, it won't say that it's... It will always say acrylic ink if it's acrylic ink.
So you see that? Okay, I'm going to
shake it up. And I actually have some Bombay ink that is just ink.
Shake it up really good. This is actually a magenta, so it's not actually red. It's more of like a pinkish red towards purple. Oh yeah, that's good focus on it.
Yeah.
Came out really good. Okay. So over here in the close cam, right here. So it's hard to remember because you have to like reverse your axis on anything you do.
Now you can tell that that's orange.
Yeah. Well, and see, that's because of the color interaction that's happening. Exactly. That's a whole other
thing. We tried to do our titles in all the different colors because we were going to be working with color theory today.
Exactly. We'll be getting to color schemes soon, though, for sure.
Yes. Okay, so that's...
We kind of went on both ends here. This is like the low end.
That's the low end.
When it comes to
pigment.
This is the high end for pigment.
And that's the high end. So what's in between?
In between are your hobby paints that you usually get at your Games Workshop.
So that's what I would if I went somewhere and said, I want to paint a miniature.
If you want to paint a miniature,
this is what they're going to sell me.
They'll probably tell you to get Reaper or
to
get, let me pick out one that's not ancient, GW Citadel miniature paint.
Okay, and so do they sell these individually or do you normally buy them in kits?
So they do both. But, well, actually, speaking of kits, here's one kit that you can get. So these are actually all washes, but we'll cover washes later.
Yep, that's another show.
This is a really good kit to get because it's kind of like a
starter. We have a viewer. Yay.
Oh, great. This is kind of like a starter kit for everybody. So you get paints and you get the clippers so that way you can actually take the miniatures apart, when you have the sprues. In the case of Zombicide...
Tell us what a sprue is. That definitely is a buzzword.
A sprue. Well, that's going to be the plastic that holds all of your miniatures together normally. But in the case of these, you've got... they're already ready to go. So you don't even have to worry about that. But
they don't even have a lot of mold lines.
Clippers for that. Yeah, mold lines, that's a whole other thing. Maybe that's a buzzword too, right?
That is definitely a buzzword as well.
This kit comes with a mold line remover. See if we can zoom out just enough.
I was going to have you show us how to use it, but I don't even see a lot of big mold lines for you to show us.
I might, let me see.
Yes.
I've
always
really
kind of been curious.
Cam for that,
Yeah, I was kind of curious the best way to use one of these mold line removers.
Well, let me see.
Or what you recommend.
If you see any, like, what's called flashing, which are those thick lines, usually on that kind of edge, what you do is you run it across that line. And it just kind of cleans it up. Because what it is it's basically just...
So you don't dig real deep or nothing?
No. It doesn't require much. With this in particular, With an X-Acto, it does require a little bit more, and it wears down the X-Acto very quickly.
Okay.
But this mold line remover is actually made for this purpose, so works out pretty nicely. And then see that there's even a little hole there, so if you're really handy with tools, you can put it on a handle. But,
alrighty.
You're trying to keep it on the budget end. But that same kit also comes with a starter brush, and you'll notice the brush is a little wonky. Just a little tiny bit. You see that at the end of it? It's just a little wonky. So what we're going to do is get this brush cleaner. You've probably seen this stuff everywhere, this brush cleaner. Everybody knows this. The Masters brand.
That is like the every art class I take, that's the brush cleaner they tell you.
Get your brush a little wet and just...
Yeah.
Oh, this camera works fine for that.
Oh, yeah.
And then you just do that, but you see how it's kind of bent a little bit, so you want to try to shape it.
And clean it up.
Yep, maybe even add more of that soap to it. Just try to make it come to a point. You're just pulling on it. You see how I'm pulling on it?
I see. And you're kind of forming it.
You're kind of forming it, exactly.
Yes, I do see that.
And you leave that soap in there, and you just kind of put it away for a while. And
I'm just checking our sound.
Hope it'll...
and hoping that
we
have some.
Doing a quick sound check?
Yes. Oh, yes, we have sound.
Okay, fantastic. Yes.
Yay! And I am on Twitch chat.
Sound is confirmed. Okay.
Sound is confirmed, and it sounds good.
Okay. So I know I'm moving around a little bit, but we're gonna be going over pretty much all this stuff all the time. As we work.
Exactly. As we keep going.
So, like I said, basically your middle of the range stuff are the.
And comment with questions if you have any.
Yep, your middle of the range paints are hobby paints. And then there's kind of the oddballs here.
Yes, so, I brought out some interesting choices.
So
he was surprised.
We're going to play around with this at some point. Crayola's signature.
So Crayola has a line.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's an upper class line for artists. Mm-hmm. And so when I saw it, I was like, oh, now isn't this interesting? And so I decided I was going to grab some and check it out. And it's an acrylic line. And so, I have tried it a little bit. I haven't tried it on miniatures. I've tried it on a couple of things that I built, and it's not bad.
Okay.
From what I could tell.
Well, you will notice it does say, if you can read that, pearlescent.
Yes.
So.
And I'm a fan of pearlescence. I'm a fan of all those fun.
Well, how would you describe to the viewers what a pearlescent paint looks like to you?
It looks like it has metal in it, like it has silver or gold, depending on which side of the pearlescence it is. Right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would treat it just like a metallic paint.
Okay.
And so, speaking of which, you want to have a separate paint pot for your metallics. So.
Oh, good to know.
Because those have generally, the sparkle part of it. If it gets in your regular colors as you're painting, it'll get in the water because you're basically dissolving the paint in this water as you clean your brushes out and all that. So if you get any of that on your regular paints, everything's going to have like little flecks of that
pearlescence.
I think traditionally has been mica flakes. So
okay.
That's the common denominator for these.
Is actually a metallic, isn't it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. So makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
yes.
I forgot to mention
yes.
Of course, there's also the artist paints themselves, right?
Yeah. So I've grew up with artists, and we painted on canvas. And so when I first got into gaming and people were painting miniatures, I said, well, I don't need to go out and buy paints. I have tons of acrylic. Mm-hmm. And I just found this out today. So talk about what I should be aware of.
Well, if you use any of the artist paints, particularly if they say anything that sounds like... I don't
cadmium.
Know well, anything that rhymes with madmium.
It's cadmium.
You don't want to lick your brushes because this is a toxic mineral. It's a toxic mineral, and it's something that I learned about when I was learning painting. And don't lick your brushes. I wouldn't do that if I were oil painting anyway. But if you're acrylic painting, it's really easy to do. They're starting to phase out cadmiums.
Really?
Yeah. So they're having cadmium.
I think I have quite a few good things.
Replacements. Well, it's the reason that they used it is because the pigment was right.
Hello, viewers.
The pigment they could derive from cadmium was so much more intense.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful yellow.
Yeah,
Have y'all seen cadmium yellow?
I mean, there's also the famous flake white, which is a beautiful white, but it was made out of pure lead.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Yeah. But it's
and that's
really
why
bad.
lead is another reason they quit making metal miniatures.
You find that in a lot of hospitals, though.
Yeah. What?
That flake white.
The flake white.
Yeah, I mean they've obviously phased it out, but a lot of really old hospitals and mental wards, filled with that.
Painted the walls with it?
Yeah.
Oh, I never knew that.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's why a lot of mental patients die of lead poisoning.
Whoa. Wow, that's see. Okay, so we're all learning today. This is great. The more I talk about color theory, the more stuff comes up I never heard about.
Isn't it interesting? Yeah.
All that stuff for sure.
All right.
And then I did bring in my own little acrylic as well, and it doesn't quite show up, but it's a fluorescent.
Oh, okay. Now, those don't necessarily glow in the dark.
No, they're I forget. There's fluorescent and there's phosphorescent.
Ah, okay, and that's the difference.
The phosphorescent
are the glow in the dark.
Okay. And those tend to be really grainy because the pigment is not really.
Because
it's not really a pigment.
Crushed.
It's actually it's not really a pigment. It's actually just kind of like it's like.
So it's very thick, and so you don't necessarily want to put that on a miniature.
No, you lose all your detail. I've tried it before. I've been through all that.
Of course, we tried it.
I bought the highest quality brand, one of the highest quality acrylic brands you could buy, which was a golden for the artist colors, and it was the same as I remember when I did it in grade school with a dollar store glow in the dark paint.
Okay.
So it's not even about the quality of the paint for the glow in the dark. It's it's not the quality brand wise.
Right.
It's the quality inherently.
Right.
It's the inherent quality
it's because
of the paint.
It's just so thick with what's the word I'm thinking of? It's not even binder and it's not polymer. It's what makes
the pigment itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, the pigment itself is just too unstable when it comes to being ground down, like you were saying.
Yeah.
And also be able to have the phosphorescent quality. So, yeah, but fluorescent paint, and this is something that has come up a bit, and we'll probably get to it when we actually start painting, which will be starting next week. I'm thinking, the following video cast.
Yes. Which our video casts are gonna be every other week. Yes. So every 2 weeks.
So what would you say? The bi-week?
Yeah.
Bi-weekly?
Bi-weekly.
Yeah. Bi-weekly.
Yeah.
So the next time that we're on here.
Yeah. Next episode.
This may come up because it may come up, but because what you want to do with any of the fluorescent paints is you want to paint it white first.
Okay.
And that gets into into priming.
Yes. And I actually brought out 2 primers that I like to use, and I didn't have the third primer with me because I like to use occasionally a clear primer.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm out of it because I've used it so much recently.
Priming itself. Oh, also bonds to plastic. I have a feeling we might need that.
Yes. And so that is kind of important to find something that will bond to plastic.
Right.
Now, I only have spray ones, but you can get ones that aren't spray.
Like ceramite white from Citadel.
Okay. Oh, you know what? I might have some from the Citadel packs.
I bet you do.
I bet I do.
In the hobby one.
Yep.
Well, I know the hobby one used to have one called Imperial Primer, and that stuff was great because it actually did have a little bit of a tooth to it. So the principle of primer, which I think I failed to mention before, not only does it help bond to the traditionally helps bond to the metal, it'll kind of almost etch it a little bit on a microscopic level.
Oh, okay.
So it's the actual grit of
to help the paint stick.
Yes, which is the same principle as gesso.
Right.
When you're doing that on a canvas.
I could have brought. I have some in the other room.
It etches into the matrix. It etches into the matrix of the fibers of the linen or
in
canvas.
Case you don't know what gesso is, artists use gesso on their canvases to help make basically to prime a canvas so that it will accept paint, because you can't just take muslin and put paint on it. It will just soak it up and you will use so much paint that you will go broke.
Yes.
Okay. So
Absolutely.
one of the first things you learn when you learn to paint is to prime your canvas. And so you use gesso to prime your canvas.
And that's even why that's another thing. You want to think about your proportions, right? With your gesso to the water. So too much water in the gesso, it's like pointless.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, because then you're not priming.
It'll actually crack easier too.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly.
Yep. There's a lot of things about these proportions, these balances of proportions. So that's really the main difference between all those types of paint. The one thing about spray paint, and I don't actually use spray paint for any of my stuff.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And that's because it has a propellant in it.
Oh.
Which, if it's not shaken up just right, can remember what we talked about all the different things. So I don't know which of those three things it is, but I want to guess that the propellant itself is the vehicle, because it's the thing that actually carries the paint, right?
Yeah.
Disperses the paint.
Right.
Distributes the paint. So if it's not mixed up just right, particularly on miniatures, it will ruin the miniatures permanently. Like, they're done.
Oh, interesting.
Particularly if it's a varnish, spray varnish. Because what'll happen is it'll get like this frosty, almost looks like it's a growth that happens on top of your painted miniature.
Oh, and have y'all ever had that happen?
I bet
now
you
you
have.
know why.
I bet you have in the Arizona heat. And it's not just the propellant, it's also the weather too, because if the particles dry before they actually hit the miniature, if they're not completely dry, they'll still stick to the miniature.
I have done spray painting where I've had that happen.
Yes.
Not on a miniature, but on other things.
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, it happens. That's why I don't like using. I'm a little bit of a control freak when it comes to this.
Now, I didn't bring it out, but I also have an airbrush.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Oh, airbrush. Well, that's a whole other.
That may be a whole nother episode.
I think so, because I don't know how to use an airbrush. So I would love to learn how.
I haven't used it yet either, so we might be learning together.
And we'll have a whole hour to figure it out.
Exactly.
Okay.
we'll figure it out.
That could be a way to do it.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay. I've always wanted to try that.
We'll have an episode of figuring out an airbrush.
I do have some tricks to when it comes to painting multiples of miniatures. So we can get to that when we get to that.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I do have some tricks that I have done in the past. There's a primer that I like to use right now. I use it as a brush on. I'm sure you could spray with it, and I can't seem. Oh wait, I left it in my box here. So let me dig in here. Or did I even bring it? Well, to be honest with you,
dun, dun.
It doesn't even have to be seen, because I'm not sure, we probably won't get quite to that point yet today. I don't see it. Okay. So it's from Vallejo.
Oh, okay.
And I actually put it in one of these smaller containers because it comes in a really big bottle.
Oh, okay.
So I wasn't going to bring the bottle.
Yeah, Vallejo is a very good paint.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And it has I can't remember exactly what kind of plastic, but it's almost like a rubber.
Oh, okay.
So what that does is it primes it really nicely. If you do it thin enough, that's another thing. You gotta think about those proportions.
Well, you sure do.
Thin coats, right? Thin coats. We'll get to that, definitely. We'll definitely be getting to that when we start painting. The thin coats principle. The Duncan rule, as anybody who follows the GW.
Oh, tell us what is the Duncan rule?
It's just 2 thin coats to start.
2 thin coats. Okay.
That's the Duncan rule for sure. So, that's one thing.
Now, is that for everything?
Pretty much every miniature you could think of, right? 2 thin coats if you're putting on your base coat, So we're assuming that it's primed or ready to go, ready to paint.
Okay.
At that point, you want to do the 2 thin coats.
Okay.
So in the case of these minis, we probably would want to prime them.
Yeah, I'm thinking that we're gonna want to prime,
which will be like a solid white or solid black. Yeah. And
now, how do you choose white or black?
Okay, now that's good. I'm glad you asked that question because it's exactly what I was thinking about.
Yeah.
Basically, it depends on what you want to end up with, and I know that's a little bit of a.
Now, what do you mean? How I want it? You mean color-wise?
Yeah. So if you want a brighter color scheme, you want white, because what's happening is the principle of undertone versus mass tone.
Oh, okay.
So undertone is going to be, and I could demo this. We'll get to that when we get further on, but I will demo that. The undertone is the color of that you see underneath.
Oh, okay.
And the mass tone is what you see on top.
Oh, okay. So like my skin has a pink undertone.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep,
but it's a white flesh tone.
It carries over.
Okay.
It carries over in so many different aspects. For
All
sure.
right.
Yeah. especially paint though. And so that's where you really want to play with that, versus if you're working with a black primed miniature. You're thinking more in terms of not even darker color scheme, higher contrast. Higher contrast, because all of the black, you can leave all of the black in the recesses. Everywhere you see any kind of detail, you can leave black, the black primed paint that you've put on your miniature.
Oh, interesting.
And it will act as your shadows, but it's harsher shadows.
Oh, yeah.
Much more dramatic, much,
So, like, some of these we might want to paint black.
Yep, just to try it out.
Just for contrast.
Yep, exactly. So,
especially if we want to do them really, really, because if they're like, because like these rippled muscles, they would look really good with those super dark, and that could be more difficult with a wash.
Exactly.
But with a black undertone,
yep.
You could really define them.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, you know what? That finally makes sense to me.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Well, so see, we're getting somewhere here, so that's good. That's
all right.
Yeah.
All right.
That's the whole idea.
Yeah, I always wondered why you why you chose between the two different ones, what the color, why. Okay, that makes sense.
And that's that's just a general thing, because every time I bring up something having to do with this hobby, someone will say, "Well, I don't do it that way." It's like, well, that's fine. I mean, there's a thousand ways you could do it.
Is completely personal.
Absolutely. Eventually.
Yeah. Eventually.
Point,
I mean, you start off with the basics,
like this,
but then eventually you start getting really good, and you get your own kind of style, like anything.
The only really objective part is the physical reality of paint. That's really about all there is.
Right.
Those are about the only things that are not really up for debate. Like, what the paint is made out of, this is what it's made out of.
And this is how it's going to react.
As long as they're telling us the truth about what's in there.
Right. Sometimes we find out that they're not.
Well, and then, so actually, just as a side thing, like in the case of washes or those kind of things, so your medium is much thinner, so that's why it's able to.
Oh, yeah. So let's grab a wash.
Yeah, so, we'll just check out one of yours here. So you can kind of see, look how it's very thin.
Yes.
Right? Very thin paint. Oh, this is a good camera. Yeah. Just have to get it just right. This works just as good as the close-up, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's the stalker cam, and so it will like focus in on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice. So what those do is those go into the recesses. So those can make you can use them either as a wash to darken a color. Let's say, what do we got here? Oh, I want to find a green.
See if it will stop.
Well, this will work. Okay. So say you've got this type of green, even though that's a thinner color also. We'll just imagine it's a regular paint. You got this kind of green, right? And then you got this kind of blue as a wash. Okay? So when you wash with that, it'll get into those shadow areas, that blue will. And it'll actually darken the entire coat of paint. So that's why you want to go back in and put in highlights on the top edges, right? As you go towards the highlights, imagining highlights at the top of those forms. And when we get it set up to demo the painting, next time I'll get more into all of those kind of things. It's in a lot of ways this is kind of like a preview. Like we're getting familiar with miniatures. We're kind of giving
an intro and getting familiar with our minis and trying to pick a color ourselves.
Yes.
And so feel free to comment if you have suggestions on color theme, because we are also picking color theme, and we don't just have our base units here. Although I wanted, before we moved on to what other units we have, I wanted to ask about like something like this with the catapult.
Okay, catapult, yes.
Because it's already brown.
Yeah.
So could we just go with just doing like washes and details, or would you suggest doing a full prime and paint on something like that?
Well, I think you could get away with doing washes and
highlights.
Yeah, washes and highlights. Yeah, I do
on
think
something
so.
like that.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't worked with this type of plastic. So what I am going to do is
we're going to take some tests.
Yeah, I'm going to do some tests at home and come back next time. And
we're coming up with ideas, and then we're going to test them out and see how they work.
Well, because in most cases, if you don't like what you did, you can do it over again.
You can just repaint.
Yeah, and you know how to do that, right?
Please tell me.
I'm quizzing you.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I do. So you just reprime it, right? Or do you strip the paint?
You can strip the paint. Yeah.
Okay.
And so this is another important thing. We're talking about physical realities here.
Yeah.
You can strip the paint except when you use resin. If you use a resin, it will dissolve. It will straight up legitimately dissolve. So you don't want to use any of those types of solvent. You don't want to use turpentine on anything but metal.
So I wouldn't use something like this?
No plastics. No plastics. No,
do not use. Don't use. Okay.
Dame.
Don't use.
That's in Japanese. Dame.
So
means
this should stay away from my miniatures.
Yes.
Okay.
Your metal, all but your metal ones.
Okay.
Your metal ones, but the thing is, that's pretty much been obsolete anyway, because you could use simple green for your metal ones even. Mm-hmm. Simple green, that's what you use. Simple green for everything but resins.
Simple green.
Even metals. You can use it on metals.
Interesting. Okay.
And you can use it. You can do it on reapers.
So that I didn't know. See, yes. I'm learning too.
Now the thing
I knew I was gonna learn something.
I would advise against leaving it in any longer than overnight. Mostly just because I've never done it any longer than that.
Okay.
So that's the only experience I've had with those. Now I haven't used this type of plastic, but I think it's pretty similar to the Reaper plastic because it does feel slightly flexible, but not as flexible as the Reaper plastic.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling it will not be as hydrophobic, but it might be a little bit. So we're gonna find all that out.
We might have to do a test and check it out.
I mean, we could grab a miniature right now and just see how the primer sticks to it. Do you want to do that? Let's pick out one of those little ones that are a little more expendable.
You know what?
Yeah.
You want to pick a rat out?
Oh yeah, let's do a rat.
Let's do a rat.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. So we have some expansions as well. Besides, this is the Green Horde. And then we have I think the rats are in the very bottom one, which is the.
I'll just grab all of them.
Yeah, just grab all of them.
Okay.
So we have the Friends and Foes.
Okay.
And that is, let's take one. That has the Hounds.
Oh, these guys are definitely the grunts, because look how many there are of those. So we can definitely grab one of those.
Yeah.
And then grab a rat, you said?
And the rats, I think, are in the next one down.
Oh, next one down. Okay. Mm-hmm. No rest for the wicked.
No rest for the wicked. My mama used to always say that. And that's got the big dragon I wanted to take out. Yeah.
Did you already unbox this?
Yes. Yeah.
So, yeah, you want to save your dragon for last. Just remember that in all things in life. Save your dragon.
Save for the dragon for last. I like that. That's a great motto.
Game of Thrones, right? Yep. Yep, that's what they're doing. The dragon battle will be the finale. I'm quite sure of that. I don't think I'm spoiling anything by saying that.
I don't think you are either.
These rats are great. Okay, so I'm going to grab one of those.
Aren't they great? They have fantastic detail.
You know, I'm going to grab one of each, just so we got...
And so see how the wings go in here somehow?
Yeah,
we did it when we unboxed it.
These are the Cool Mini or not, right? The Zombicide?
You know, I'm not sure. Oh. I think so.
So look at how big this dragon. Where is it?
It wasn't even in frame yet.
Imagine. Just use your word picture.
I don't even have all its wings on yet.
Yes. Oh, okay.
These wings have been through something. Am I putting those on right?
Yeah, they look right to me.
Okay. Whoops.
Just getting ready to. It's getting ready to take off.
It's like a worm dragon.
Wait. Is it this way?
Oh, it is.
Okay.
I was doing it backwards.
There we go.
That's better.
Oh, look at that.
Yes. Yes.
Look at that dragon. Oh, and I love the angle of the face. It's looking down at the potential meal.
That is fantastic.
Isn't that great?
Oh, yeah. So we got to figure out that color
That's a really nice dynamic pose, for sure. So, yeah, that would be one of your... Yeah. Okay, I'm really going to take my time on that.
Yeah.
A dog, nothing personal, but, dog. Right?
Yeah, we're not going to take a ton of time on dogs.
Rats actually are kind of a little bit...
Although I kind of really like this wolf.
The wolf is cool.
The wolf is cool.
The wolf has got a lot of texture.
Yeah.
So you're going to want to do a thing called dry brushing for that fur, which we'll definitely get into.
Yeah,
You're familiar with dry brushing?
I am.
You've taken the workshop. And then even for the rats, you would probably want to do that.
I'm not even sure what this is, but it's got cool wings.
I can't quite get the good detail on the rats.
I know. It's got... In fact, that's the reason why we need to do it, is to get that detail out.
Yeah, exactly. See, that's That's really all you're doing is, you're bringing out the detail of the sculpt. That's
I think this is a cat with wings.
Maybe it's, oh yeah, it definitely looks like a cat.
Yeah, I get it up there. Here, you got longer arms than me. There we go.
I love this camera.
That is great.
This is my favorite one. I wish I could use it when I'm painting.
Well, you will be.
I wish my eye was that good. So, speaking of eyes, I have...
Oh, yes.
Do you ever have any trouble with your detail when you get into that?
Oh, I think I'm going to need to get one of these.
We're still talking about tools.
Yes.
So...
We do have a few tools to show.
You got your paint, you got your brushes. We haven't gone through brushes yet, but we will.
No.
Yeah, this thing is
indispensable. Do you want some more cider?
Yes, please.
Here
I got to catch up on all those buzzwords.
I know.
So this thing is really pretty great.
That is pretty cool. And it makes your eyes look awesome.
There's even a loop that goes over.
That's awesome.
So we'll be using that at some point. Thank you.
Yes. So that helps you get a really close-up view of all that detail.
Mm-hmm. That's the only way I could paint some of the things I painted.
Okay.
That is definitely for sure.
Oh, and if you want to check out his site, you want to tell him what your IG site is? Because you do painting on commission, don't you?
Yes, absolutely. I do paint on commission, yes. And I have examples of that on my Instagram. So my Instagram is @Daintist, DAINTIST, @Daintist.
Awesome.
So think dentist, but my name.
Oh, perfect.
Or artist.
Yeah.
But it kind of turned into a weird amalgam pun. So.
Yeah.
And I'm glad it wasn't taken. That's all I can say.
It's perfect. I like it.
I was amazed it hadn't been because I only joined Instagram about 4 years ago. Yeah. Fairly recently.
Yeah. Well, Instagram just got to the point where they would let artists keep rights to their work.
Yeah.
And they weren't taking the rights.
Yes.
And so
indeed.
Once they started doing that, they got a lot more artists.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So these rats are almost like rat hordes. Mm-hmm. So why don't we check it out and see if it will just take paint? So what do we think?
Do you want to try what color do you want to try? Do you want to try white? And then we can do washes?
Yeah, well, I think that could be good one.
Okay.
Or why don't we do one white and one black and then we can see the difference.
Even better. Okay.
Yeah.
So, do you happen to have any black paint? Because I can't find
I'm sure I have black acrylic.
I could swear that I brought that with me, but
I'm sure I do. I'm just going to slip around on the other side real quick here.
Okay, no problem.
From my,
I'm just surprised. I don't.
Black Noir. Will that work?
Yes. So, yes, perfect. So I'm going to go and put some of this on my palette. As soon as I poke it open. So, as you can see, sometimes these tubes,
So you can just use regular paint as primer.
Yes, that's another thing. You don't have to get primer.
So you don't have to buy no special paint.
Don't have to.
All right.
It's totally...
So that's a good thing to know.
Totally a preference thing. It's really, like I said, it's because of those years, many years ago, when everything was made out of metal. I mean, we're talking lead miniatures, right? That's right. When I was growing up.
Well, and
when I was really young.
This is like a more recent metal miniature, but this is something that was my father's from the early 1930s.
Yeah, let's go ahead and show that. Wait, the 30s? A toy soldier?
Uh-huh.
This is a vintage Warhammer.
And that's, I'm sure, made of lead.
Right? That is definitely made of lead.
Yeah.
Because it is about at least 1.5 times heavier than this one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then this is pewter.
I actually saved this out of one of my old father's trains. It was stuck in one of my old father's trains.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely...
And I found it after he
That's definitely a hard to find thing.
Yeah, I have actually 4 or 5 of them. See if they're up there.
Make sure you get that lead off your fingers.
That's probably wise, huh?
Just in case. Just in case. It's probably so old that it's got like a layer of protection at this point. But, like rust,
Yeah.
This lead rusts, right? I don't know anything about about metallurgy. This is as much as I know. They used to make metal miniatures.
You know what? I used to play with mercury as a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh literally. Let it float, right?
Yeah, my dad would break the thermometers and give them to me and tell me to go play. Yeah. So it's amazing I'm alive.
Well, you never know. Maybe it's just the right kind, right?
Exactly.
I think there's a metal that acts like mercury, but it actually isn't mercury.
Oh no, I played with mercury.
Straight up out of the thermometer.
Mercury. Yeah.
So this is a pewter miniature.
Okay.
So that's going to be, it actually does have a little bit of lead in it, I believe, but a very small amount, and I think it's mostly tin.
Little did you know what I was going to be able to pull out.
Yeah. I wasn't expecting to see an actual lead miniature today. So
right here, Girls Game 2.
I am going to test this out. I'm going to go and test this out right now, this black paint.
Okay.
And I'm going to give you the white
paint. And I love these palettes. So just so you know, it's not like we don't have actual palettes, but I love his.
It's shaped like a shield.
Yeah.
Now, it's hard to tell because it's completely covered with paint, but you know.
And I love these because when they're covered with paint, I think they look so much more artistic.
They're fun. Yeah, for sure. And a lot of people, like if you're using a wet palette, they'll like reset it every time. And
I have to buy something special for a palette?
No, you can make a wet palette, but do we have? I think you mentioned that you had stuff for one.
You can make. I actually own a wet palette that I bought, but it's really easy to make a wet palette out of a Pyrex dish, a sponge, and a paper towel.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you just get the sponge wet, and you put the paper towel on top, and then that's where you put the paint.
Yeah.
So everybody can visualize that.
Use a Pyrex dish with a cover.
Yeah.
So you can just cover it, and it preserves it.
Yep.
And that's the easiest way to make a wet palette.
So I am actually adding water to this paint because it's artist paint. One of the things I did want to mention with most of the paints.
Yeah, this is more my artist paint.
You do want to thin it out.
Because why did I need to buy more paint? I have artist paint.
This paint is, you probably cannot tell this close up, but see how it kind of flows.
And did you see how the small amount he put on that palette to begin with?
Yeah, it was just a little tiny dot.
Little dab. Little dab will do you. I have a hard time with that.
Those good artist paint. This is a De La Rowney. It's actually not. It's like a kind of a budget art brand.
It is.
But it's still got plenty of pigment in there from what you can tell.
So that is the thing with artist paint. Even the budget artist paint is pretty well pigmented.
So I'm putting that paint right on, and it is acting a little hydrophobic. So
it is.
Yeah, see how it's beading? That should be completely covered with paint.
Okay.
It's beading up. So what we will probably have to do with these...
So these do need to be primed.
Well, or washed. Now that is one thing I didn't mention is a lot of the times when they release the sprues and all of that,
you have to wash them with like a Dawn dishwasher soap.
Or even just soak them for a couple minutes. But
sometimes
you can get away with painting directly. I have done it before. It is doable, but it's no guarantee. So I think that's what's kind of happening here.
So part of your prep on your minis, sometimes, more often than not, is to give them a nice scrub. Now, do you have to scrub them like good scrubbing or just like a little wash or soak?
I would say just a little soak, yeah.
Okay.
For the ones I know I'm going to spend a lot of time on, I will scrub them with a toothbrush.
Okay.
As well.
Okay.
Yeah. But it still is sticking. It's just not. It's not wanting to stick as well as it could. So. Can we have a commercial break?
Well, actually, I can go ahead and tell you about what's coming up.
Let's do that. Yeah.
And while he tries to get a little paint on that.
Yeah, I mean it is sticking. It's just it's a little fussy.
So actually, coming Thursday, we have episode 2 of Real Girls Cosplay, and our torso turned out so good. I can't wait for you all to see it. I'm super excited. Our LifeCast torso. If you missed the first episode, you need to check it out. It's really awesome. And so for our second episode, we are going to start EVA foam armor. Yeah. And so we're going to start working with foam. And
oh my God.
Being a puppeteer, you probably are real familiar with that.
I'm a little familiar. I haven't really done a lot of...
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, so, well, I've done a little bit.
You've probably... You probably have already done more than I have done.
And so our episode this week is all about patterning. And we're actually going to show you 3 different ways that you can do patterning, from just the super easy template pattern to the more complicated kind of still pre-made pattern, to actually drafting your own pattern on a dress form and then cutting it out from foam. And we're going to give you tips and tricks on cutting foam. And then the next episode after that will be gluing, and we're actually going to show you 3 different ways. We're going to try out 3 different glues and see which actually is the better glue to use.
That's good. You're doing like a test.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
test lab.
Because everybody talks about what kind of glues and all that. And of course, I'm going with Barge.
Yeah, but that stuff's so nasty from what I hear.
It is, yeah. I'm gonna have to wear the whole face mask and all that, yeah. And one of the gals is gonna use super glue.
It will not it will keep its bond.
It will keep its bond, but you better know where you're putting it the first time you put it. Yeah, exactly. You better know for sure. Exactly. So those are the next 2 episodes of Real Girls Cosplay, which is our Thursday series, and then this Friday, which we do our board games on Fridays. And but this week we're having our box queef show.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I get that look every time I say it. So, it's an unboxing show. So, every time when you unbox that noise the box makes, that's a box queef. Okay. And so you see all these, that's just a little bit. Geez. That's just a small amount of what needs to be unboxed. Okay. Yeah. So we're going to be unboxing a whole lot of games this week, and I have a special guest, Amber. She played Betrayal with us this month. She's going to come in and do those unboxings with me, and that is hopefully, if I can get my mics up and working, that will be an ASMR.
Oh, okay. So you were talking about that. So so that is a thing that you're into then? Or?
Yes, that is. That is a thing I'm into.
Appealing to the demographic, or are you just are you into that yourself?
I really like it. Okay. Yeah, I really like it myself. I think it's very soothing.
Cool.
Those little body tingles and brain tingles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it goes right into the biofeedback.
Okay.
And then that is our week this week, because I'm going to be spending the weekend over at Puppet Pie.
That's right. Yeah, yes. both days, right?
Yes, both days, because I'm doing the workshop with Greg Ballora on moving mechanisms.
The rod puppets.
Puppets. And then you have a workshop.
I do have a workshop
at Puppet Pie this weekend. So if y'all are in Arizona, I'm going to let him tell you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's an open workshop. So normally I do a workshop that's a step-by-step tutorial for anybody who's never painted a miniature before or has only painted a couple. So to go through like basic techniques, kind of like what we're doing here. This is actually, just because all we're doing is talking this time around, it's much more in depth than what I normally cover in a workshop when it comes to details.
Yes, you're getting more than the paid people.
Yeah, I get through it. I get through it in the workshop because I want people to just do it rather than think about the why.
Exactly.
And what happens is everybody is like, "Whoa, I actually painted a miniature."
I know.
So it's designed that way.
This is one of the miniatures I did.
Oh yeah.
Here, put it up in yours.
Yeah. This one I really I like.
This I did in his flesh tone class, and it's not zooming in as good as it should. It's getting mad at me now. Yeah, and there we go.
It's a little better.
And I learned a lot in that class, and about different flesh tones and how to get them, and I did a basing class with you, and we're gonna go all over all of these techniques.
That's what this is.
In all the different things.
Where is it? The grass and the.
I did a little basing on that.
The little rock there.
Yeah.
So so the flesh tones is designed to be able to make, most of the natural flesh tones using only 3 colors. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're all of them are probably not what you would expect, right?
It wasn't. When I saw those colors, I'm like, what do you expect me to do with these colors?
Right.
These are not flesh tone colors.
Right. Yeah. And that's part of that's actually very much about the mass tone undertone principle, though, because that's what flesh is, right?
Yeah.
Because we all have the same blood and everything. It's just the amount of light coming through and melanin happening. Yeah. It's really the only difference.
Exactly. I learned a lot. So you did get some paint on that.
So I did get some paint on that. It's a little patchy, but
So if we had washed it, it probably would have taken it much better.
I think it was mostly just because it hadn't
been washed yet.
So rather than it being hydrophobic like the Reapers are.
So tip, we need to wash our need to wash your
Not
minis.
A big deal. That's a learning experience.
So that worked pretty good though.
Yeah.
So even just that base brought out a lot.
Oh, speaking of bases. So another thing, you probably saw me fiddle with this as I was painting it and dropping it. So that was partially by design. I also forgot to mention, but you can get these nice little paint handles
Those are nice, and that just gives you a little extra to hold on to. Yeah.
Won't come off. It will not come off.
Yeah. Okay. So that's kind of a nice tool. And now I've also heard. Trying to remember, there was kind of a
odd bases sometimes can fit.
Oh yeah.
So that's not actually a round base.
I heard a hack for that, and I can't remember it off the top of my head.
A pill bottle with...
That's it. That's the hack.
Pill bottle with poster tack. But you want to get sticky poster tack, because there's different qualities.
That was the...
Different grades that you can get.
I knew there was a hack, and I was trying to remember what that hack was.
Yeah, you want to get the extra strength.
He is so good at these inexpensive hacks that if you don't want to go out and buy the really sweet handle, what's a hack for that that's less expensive that you have at home?
It's it's a little bit of a gimmick, but it's luxury, right? It's
and
like
believe me, I like luxury. Handles. Like he's got this little pot for the brush cleaner, whereas I have the luxury brush cleaner
with the spiral. So
with the spiral,
what does the spiral do?
So, well, that's a good question.
You know what it does. Come on. It's for the bristles, right?
Yeah. It makes it so your bristles don't get squashed.
There you go.
And it keeps them up and high. Yep. So when you put your brush in there, it actually keeps them up above.
Exactly.
So they don't get squashed.
Yep. That is a tricky thing with brushes because you don't want to throw those right in your paint pot.
Exactly.
With water, because that's number one way you get one of the number one ways. There's more than one number one, I guess.
Well, and I am notorious. I'm notorious for bad maintenance. I really am. I should really get better at it. But that's one reason why I use a wet palette, because I'm notorious for saying, you know what, I'm tired. I'm going to take a break and then not coming back for days.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I don't even use a wet palette, because I know it's not going to happen. If I'm done painting, I'm done painting. I'm not coming back.
And then I'll just throw my paintbrushes in the water, and then it's been days.
Yeah.
Hence why I have the spiral.
So it holds it in place, right? Mm-hmm.
So it holds it up, and my brushes don't get bent.
There are other risks associated with leaving those brushes in the
We also have the fancy-dancy
Yeah.
holder that holds your brushes up while they dry.
I love these. Yeah. These are great. I used them for years.
And
for sure.
and it also has a drying rack inside of it that you can't really tell, because I have so many brushes drying from my last adventure.
Perfect. That's a good problem to have, though, right?
Yeah, exactly. Of painting.
I think we've reached about the end.
I think we have.
Are we actually going over a little?
Yeah, we pretty much went over the stuff. We didn't get to color theme.
Not yet, but we will next time.
But we will next time, definitely. And we'll actually have some samples.
Yes.
And so thank you for joining us, and thank you for our lurkers. Feel free to comment anytime. If you have any questions, feel free to comment those. And we will definitely see you next time.
Yes. We paint zombies.
Yes. And if you have any color suggestions, feel free to comment those as well. And y'all come back now. You hear?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Mwah. I always send them off